is a result of what those people know and what they can do, which basically means knowledge and skill, which are then embodied in something that we call education. Education is what we teach our people to know and then to be able to do things. It therefore means education is central to the development of any country. It therefore means whatever we do, we have to look at our curriculum and see whether it is fit for purpose. Our intention, for example, is to become an upper middle income economy, and because we want to become an upper middle income economy, this is an intention. But what is the means that you use to reach there? Basically, is to look at our education system. So this new curriculum, first of all, you ask why 2024 to 2030? Normally, we have got what we call curriculum review cycles that normally take 5-6 years, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, depending on what we want. But you know, we want to go to 2030, so we are going to 2030. There is no what I can call physics behind it. It's basically these are cycles that we follow in curriculum review. But also, and I will also want at some point, maybe Honorable Minister Moyo to add on what I would have said, if there is anything to add. We are replacing the name called CALA by school-based continuous assessment. And by the term school-based continuous assessment, it basically means our learning is more of students learning at school. And I think what we have also done is to reduce the number of learning areas in order to focus. So that's for Tolisani. Or the other question by privilege is what is heritage-based education? I want to start by saying this heritage-based education is a prelude towards heritage-based education 5.0, which is being pursued at higher and tertiary education. But by heritage-based education, we are basically meaning education that is focused on using the best knowledge that you can ever get, but focused on the environment of your country, or on the natural endowments of your country and the people of that country. For example, I will just give you an example. Would you study Chaminuka, or do you want to study, first of all, Mussolini? Think you are likely to benefit more by studying Chaminuka, who was living in your environment, and add to Mussolini. There's nothing bad in knowing other areas, but first of all yourself. So heritage-based education, if you are doing, for example, foliar chemistry, let me just give you an example of foliar chemistry, which means leaf chemistry. Would you study a maple tree, or would you study a mchakata tree? I think I would rather study a mchakata tree, which is close by, but still the same chemistry, using the same principle. So heritage-based education is a very strong philosophical, leaning towards relevance to the environment that way you live. Would you study a lion or a polar bear? I think I would rather study a lion because it is around. A polar bear, it can be an elective if I want to. So, but these are just examples of trying to say I would study Zimbabwe's minerals, but using the same scientific principles, isn't it? Because scientific principles are universal, but their applications are specific. So, Zimbabwe's minerals, Zimbabwe's soils, Zimbabwe's climate, Zimbabwe's water, Zimbabwe's plants. But you must remember, when you are studying Zimbabwe's plants, you are studying them using the same scientific principles as people in the tundra would study the tundra system, as people in the tropical rainforest would study the tropical rainforest, as people in the desert or to study the desert. But the issue basically is at the end of the day, you are learning for what? You are learning to fulfill the needs of your people, which is water from the environment where you are, which is food from the environment where you are, which is transport from the environment where you are, which is health from the environment where you are, which is the people from the environment where you are, which is connection from the environment where you are. So that's your heritage. Your heritage is your power. Your heritage is your home. For example, I would give an example just to clarify and make it very clear. Would you make wine from mafura or would you make wine from grapes? I think you are more successful making wine from mafura because one, you don't need to water them. Two, they are here because they've succeeded to fight against the diseases in this land. When you are doing it with grapes, it means you first of all you have to look like Italy or you have to simulate an Italian environment. So I would rather then make wine from amphora, and then if I want Italian wine, then we exchange. That's the basis of trade. So heritage-based education is such a powerful philosophy when it comes to relevant examples that make a difference in people's lives. I think, because sometimes people, when we say heritage, they think it's history. No, heritage is a scientific term which means what do you have? For example, what do we have in this country in terms of trees? We have Kumsasa Mnondo. What else do we have in terms of minerals? We have all sorts of minerals, over 4,000 minerals in this country. We can name them. So when you study, would you study things that are removed from your environment? No, you don't study things that are removed from your environment because it's your environment from which you profit and from which you are able to produce goods and services that you can trade with other countries. Therefore, heritage-based education is a very heavy education in terms of philosophy. So heritage is a philosophy of saying home first, but universal principles in terms of science, in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, but focusing on your home. So I hope in a very long short, I have been able to explain what heritage is and what heritage-based education is. It's a relevant education. Education that is relevant to your country, that is relevant to your people, that is relevant to the environment that you are in, because education is the means towards the production of goods and services. Because you can't build if you don't know how to build, isn't it? So you build with the materials that are within your country. I would rather study clay that is in Zimbabwe than clay that is imaginary. Therefore, I can be able to make pots and tiles using clay that is in Zimbabwe. Using the clay that is in Zimbabwe is your heritage. Now, Privilege went on further, I think, or is it Tabatama, to ask about the budget. I just want to, I will talk in terms of framework, not in terms of real figures. Because if I talk about real figures, that's not policy. Let me say, in order to implement an education change or an education revolution, first of all is the intention of the education that you have to look at. What is the intention of the education? It's involved within the vision of His Excellency the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, as he represents us, which is the vision to become an upper middle income economy that is modernized and industrialized. When that has been said, you then have to develop capabilities to reach that vision. But the capabilities can be reached with an appropriate education. So, what are the pillars which we can use to support an appropriate education, which is the heritage-based education? Number one, the programs. What are you studying first? What is it that you are studying? What are you learning? That's number one. That's when people say, I do chemistry, I do physics, I do this. What are you learning? How are you learning it? Which are the programs? So we then have to ask, what are the learning areas that we are learning? That's number one. Or A, if you want in Roman, or whatever numerals that you want to use. But I say one, it is the programs. What are you studying? Commercials? Humanities? This, but what are you actually studying? What are the programs? Number one. Number two, who is teaching these programs? What do they learn? How are you capacitating the teachers so that they can teach? So that's being number two. Number three, what is the infrastructure that makes things possible. For example, we are holding a press conference here because the infrastructure is appropriate for it. We have put in the microphones, we've put in the seats, we've put in... So in terms of school, what are the laboratory infrastructure? What is the digital infrastructure in terms of our learning infrastructure? What is the electricity infrastructure? Where are the teachers living? Which is basically the physical and the digital environment. That's number 3. Number 4, we also say, what is the legal basis of your education? What legal instruments are supporting your education? That's when we then have to look at the Education Act, we look at the regulation that the ministry is using or the ministries are using in order to ask whether they are supporting our intention, which is number 4. Then number 5, we come to Tapatapa's issue because you just asked one of those things, which is money. After all has been said and done, you have got your programs, you have got your people, which is your workforce, you have got your physical and digital infrastructure, you have got your legal infrastructure. What is the budget? What is the financial infrastructure that you use to support this? So we have 5. So Tapatapa have asked the 5th one, but the 5th one is part of a collective of 5 things that we are looking at. And this is looked at from time to time, and Treasury and the Chief Finance Minister is the President. He then looks into this infrastructure to make sure that it supports the legal reform, it supports the physical infrastructure and digital infrastructure, it supports the staffing or the workforce, it supports the programs. So basically I believe that this gives an overview of the systemic issues that we are looking at when it comes to our education. So our education is moving from rote learning, which is A-A-E-O-U, without thinking deeper. So now we are saying, after you have learned physics, then what do you do? What do you apply it for? So we are going for skill, we are going for knowledge with the intention to produce goods and services. Because it's goods and services that make us be able to put on these clothes and talk like this. Because education at the end of the day must result in human dignity. Human dignity is when people can find food when they want it, can find water when they want it, can find health when they want it, can find transport when they want it. So all this must come from school. So no more issues of imaginary things. We study and make things and services. I hope this explains the revolution that we are making within the education system to make it more relevant. We are not going to change the physics formula, but we are saying this physics formula must be used to produce something, not just to say, I know MC squared, and then what? If you say, I know MC squared, therefore I shall deploy a satellite which will respond to the MC squared law so that it goes around the Earth. Now that's physics. I know biology, and this biology is going to make me be able to make mushrooms, and also to make vegetables, and also to produce more animals so that my people can have more food. Then that biology will make sense. I hope I am explaining this system that we are looking at. Honorable Chair, I think I have taken my beat. I don't know whether Honorable Moyo has something to add to this statement.
Yeah, perhaps Honorable Moyo can add some more.
I want to add a few. Firstly, to the question asked by Kolisani, how to review CALA system. What I would say is the new revised curriculum is intended to rationalize CALA to a very large extent. CALA was introduced at a time when we were in a pandemic in form of COVID-19. So it was introduced around 2020. And in the majority of cases, the teachers had not been trained to effectively manage CALA. And our observations were that learners were doing more than 27 CALAs at grade 6 and grade 7. So that had to be reviewed. And the new revised curriculum has reduced the number of learning areas per subject from around 8 to 1, which means we are going to offer 6 learning areas to primary students and 5 compulsory learning areas from Form 1 up to Form 4. So which means that at grade 7, a student is only going to do 6 school-based projects. And we have removed the word CALA completely and replaced it with a school-based project. So they will do a maximum of 6 instead of 27, a minimum of 27 that they used to do. And one major point is that the revised curriculum is very important in the sense that we want to inculcate critical thinking skills in our students, to embrace problem-solving issues. Our students should be able to innovate, should identify societal problems benefiting society, affecting society. Then they carry out their research or their project based on the problem that is faced by the community. And in the process, they are able to come up with goods and services that we need. Our emphasis is to ensure that we are going to vocationalize education. By the time a learner finishes O-level, he or she must be able to provide goods and services that are needed. One should be able to have skills of making vehicles, skills of writing some plans, housing plans, and any living out of that. That is the main motive of this revised curriculum. And on the question asked by Tabata, capacitation of teachers. It is our aim to ensure that before we roll out this curriculum, it becomes compulsory for every teacher to go through in-service training as a form of human capital development. We are able to fulfill and also to realize milestones because the teachers, they also need to go for in-service training, and in the process that will ensure that the curriculum will be appreciated by teachers. And our emphasis is that we want those teachers to embrace the new ways of teaching. The pedagogy and andragogy of teaching is to improve in line with the new curriculum, so that they need to have scientific way of ensuring that the learners will receive some skills, competencies that are in line with what we expect, in line with the national vision of Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, of National Development Strategy 1, that will be realized through this new curriculum. I submit one which. One of the 5 areas, the issue of digital and physical infrastructure. We are going to introduce what we call internet in a box. That means that we are going to have a server in various schools, especially in rural areas. I'm sure you're aware that the number of disparities between urban and rural schools. Rural schools are disadvantaged in terms of internet connectivity, and also because in some areas we may not even have the internet. So, internet in a box means a server will be deployed to an administration block. Then any learner within a radius of 100 to 200 meters can access the learning materials uploaded by the teacher. So there is not going to be any cost for that, because because of the use of this cell. The other issue is we have also engaged diasporians, Zimbabwean patriots who are in the US, who are in New Zealand. One of the guys we have already signed an MOU with them, where we are going to roll out laptops, tablets from ECD right up to Form 4. But our main emphasis will be rural areas. So we're going to roll out starting with Chipinge, Bedbridge, Chivi, until the entire country is being covered, and we are going to implement that. Then to the question asked by Privilege on whether we are going to envisage a situation where learners are going to learn in their mother language. When you are an ECD teacher, you can't teach learners in English or in French. You have to resort to mother language so that they are able to understand what you are teaching them. But we said at secondary level, we have 5 compulsory subjects. And one of the compulsory subjects is history and heritage studies. And another compulsory subject is an indigenous language, which may be Shona, Ndebele, Tonga, Zulu, Nambia, you name it. So those indigenous languages will be taught in either Shona or Ndebele. So because it will be compulsory. Then for the last question asked by Chidaba, on whether we are going to reduce these colors, whether it's going to be, when are we going to implement? This is with immediate effect. We will reduce starting from 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.